Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you everything you need to know, the ultimate guide to be a hopefully great High King or Queen in your kingdom. So whether you are a leader, an officer, or just a member, I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a video you're going to want to watch because I'm going to give you behind the scenes look and insight into what it takes and also what goes into these roles. So hopefully there's a level of understanding and appreciation from the non-management personnel, i.e. members, and also for the people that are in management, being able to get kind of a nice outline of how I can go about managing, whether it be ideas, things you take away, maybe some inspirations, or just a different way of approaching it. So as always, before we get started, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us up because it helps out a lot. Number one. What is a High King Queen expectation versus an alliance leader? Well, I'll tell you right now, it is more or less than being an alliance leader, but just exacerbated. It's leveled up. Because now you're not just responsible and accountable for the players that are in your single alliance, up to 200, but you're now also for the players in the kingdom. And what that means is that whereas you were mainly, hopefully, being forms of human resources, internal affairs, customer service, tech support, a therapist, a psychiatrist, you were a mailman, etc. You were a planner, war general, etc. You will now do all of those things, but just for the kingdom. And it doesn't mean you're going to do all those things at once. You may not even do every single thing for each home realm cycle, but it's having an understanding and an expectation that you will and may do these things at any given time. You will also get contacted and get messaged by a number of players, depending on how active your kingdom is. And some of the situations that may arise for you can be anything from someone asking, hey, can you come mediate this? Hey, can you go attack this alliance because they've attacked us? What are you going to do? How are you going to handle that? Or, hey, these players are farming on our territory. We need swift action. You need to handle this right now. It could be, hey, can I go and fill into this territory? Can I capture this behemoth? Hey, even better, can you come help us capture this behemoth? And so all of this is to say that you have to have a realistic expectation in that if you haven't been a king or queen before, you should have no expectations, right? You take things as they come and you deal with them, hopefully one at a time, kind of based on a priority order. And that, I hope, and keep in mind, not everyone is going to be built to be a king or queen of an alliance, because it is more so an administrative management type role and title, and not everyone is built for that. And so having an understanding of what you are good at, not good at in the moment, but maybe you still work on, is going to be really important. And so at times, you may find that maybe someone else is better suited or more well-suited to be your king or queen, to handle some of those things. And it doesn't mean that you only have to be kind of administrative or managerial focused, but it is going to be a healthy part of the job. On top of this, keep in mind that aside from you maybe not being a good fit to be king or queen in that moment, it also is something where you have the opportunity to lean on your management team. And this leads into point number two, is that as number two, you need to have a solid team around you, whether that's co-leads, people that you can rotate, co-kings and queens, having people as your, I think, ministers. We'll get into the titles here in a moment, but having a good solid team around that can support you, whether that be for things like title giving, and again, we'll touch on those here shortly, but being there for you and having enough people active in the alliance as management personnel that can assist and that you can delegate things to will be that much more critical and crucial once you get to become a high king or queen. Number three is that you may consider having rotational kings or queens, people that you can rotate this with whenever you're offline and depending on how you do it in your kingdom. Right? Whether you rotate alliances into king, and that happens, and we'll talk about that in the next point, but you need to have a system set up, and hopefully, and again, this will depend, because some people may just want to be king forever, and even if they're offline, that's fine. Maybe they have people that they're wanting to kind of share the co-kingship or co-queenship with, or king-queen. Maybe you do some mixed doubles, if you will, or mixed singles. And you have to figure out what is best for you. Because, again, it also comes with a level of vetting, a level of trust, a level of rapport that you've built with these people that you feel comfortable, a level of comfortability to transfer king or queen to others. So, again, it will come down to how your kingdom is set up and what you would like to do going forward. But having potential rotational kings and or rotational management staff can really help with, again, delegation and also reducing management burnout. Number 4 is, depending on how you run alliances for who is going to rotate Flame Dragon and King. As an example, let's say you have 4 active alliances in the kingdom, and maybe you do one thing where every alliance rotates the dragon once every week or once every 5 days, so everyone has a chance to be king or queen. Maybe you have it to where you have only one alliance, and there's really no need. But for kingdoms, I would say, with 2 or more alliances, it is, I say, a couple ways you can do it. One, you could have multiple alliances positioned around the dragon and rotate that way. You could have it to where you have, thank you, sweetie. You could do it to where you have multiple alliances. This is a lot. Where you have multiple alliances and you still just have one person that runs king. You could also have what we like to call in the biz a king's alliance. And a king's alliance is where you set up a shell or an empty alliance. You would build the CF touching dragon or a CF plus a flag, usually. And you would have everyone in these 2 or more alliances that's a member of management that's willing to assist and help and put some time in, join this secondary alliance with their alts or second accounts. And then you would bring over strong players to the second alliance so that alliance can capture the dragon. And then this King's Alliance or Management Alliance would operate and manage the dragon and manage the king or queen. And so this allows for you to do a number of things. If it's done right, it allows for you to now have access to more management personnel, because now instead of you just having a single alliance that's holding it with their 1 R5 and up to 8 R4s, you now have an opportunity to bring in 2, 3, 4 R5s and 8, 16, 24, 32 up to R4. So you can understand how you now have more abilities and flexibility to cycle and to rotate without having to have multiple alliances recapture. It is always up to everyone on how they want to do it. I've seen this done in a multitude of ways. I myself am a fan of a King's Alliance if it is done well and if it's done right. It can be an incredible benefit and asset to the kingdom and reduce just unnecessary additional steps or hoops to jump through with doing normal alliance rotations, along with having more accessibility and more flexibility in the people that can be available to assist with king or queen duties. But as always, it's up to you. Doesn't mean that if you don't run a King's Alliance, your kingdom's going to be doomed or not. No, I've seen successful kingdoms have been ran a multitude of different ways, but most likely it typically falls into a few, right? A handful. Number 5, which is going to be, I actually think that everyone should like the kings. When you go to high kings and you go into privileges, I think everyone should like the high king. Or give a thumbs up. And I say that because it would be cool for it to be like a soft activity gauge of anytime this changes, or even just seeing how many thumbs up it can get. Now, yeah, it can be skewed because you can also have other accounts that come in and maybe inflate that, or scouts, or second accounts. But I don't know. I guess to me, I feel like, man, that could be cool to see 500, 600, 1,000. Even if it's a very soft gauge on activity, could be cool to see. We'd love to hear what you guys think on that one. Number 6 is going to be the Kingdom Declaration. Now, this is the Kingdom Declaration. This is something that obviously everyone will see first when they click on privileges. And my recommendation for this would be something such as, and this one, I mean, it doesn't really do anything, right? It's almost like, just take a quote from a book and kind of put it there. So I personally think that this is the way I would do it, is I would have all of the important roles and contacts listed. So kind of similar to how you might do an alliance declaration. But in this case, with the king declaration, you have to think about who is going to be here and advocating for the kingdom. So if you have one alliance, that's pretty straightforward, right? You might be able just to more or less copy your alliance declaration. But if you have two or more alliances, you may have people, especially if they're active and alliances, then you may have players from other alliances outside of the one that has captured Flame Dragon that can be assisting with kingdom-wide duties. And some of those may include, so you might have something such as, you would say, High King, in this case, Teabag. You might say Kingdom Diplomacy would be someone's name. You might say Territory, Kingdom Territory would be someone's name. Kingdom Migration or Kingdom Recruitment or Kingdom Migration/Recruitment would be someone's name. You would have a Kingdom Discord, and then you'd have that linked out. You might also list off a couple points on maybe how PvP is done, right? Or if you have like certain goals or standards, right? Like the big ticket items, maybe how you manage SLE, right? You might have some of those pieces, depending on the length of this, listed out. You might have what your long-term vision is for the kingdom in maybe just a few words, right? But you'll expand on that somewhere else. Think about putting important information here that people can take away and also be a point of contact. So that's how I would do something like a declaration, because I think there's just a lot more value in that. And it's also something that people can get information on right away. So, because you have to think about when they open this, they're going to see these parts at the top. So you might say something such as, important information on the kingdom can read below. Right, and then you'd have everything listed out. So it's that first thing that calls the attention to people, and then they know, right? And it could say important information and points of contact, like as an example. So that's just how I would do that. Then we get into the next one, which is titles. So this is number 7. And so titles for me, this is the thing, and I'm just going to give it to you straight. You need to have a number of people that will be available to hand out titles, because people are going to be asking for titles. So, and the titles they're going to ask for are going to be the High Scholar, Archmage, and Chief Warder. Now, if you combine these with rune stone drops around Flame Dragon, these can add up. So I think the highest percentage one we can see is a 15% rune, I believe. I think it's the 5, if that's right. And so, and even if not, whatever the highest rune is, let's say a 15% building speed rune drop. So let's just go see. I'm just curious. I don't even know if there is one because I haven't looked yet. But okay, so there's something here. Let's look. Gold, mana, and then what's this other one over here? Elixir. Are there any down here? Oh, hang on. Here's some. So there's gold. Train speed 10%. So that's 1, 5. And then there's a build speed 15%. Okay, so these are really good examples. So let's use the build speed 15% as an example. So build speed 50% drops. People are asking for titles, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment on how to set this up. You would give them the Archmage, which now brings them to 25%. And then you would pop a skill for... where's my building? All Lords Healing, build speed, intensive construction, which is 10% for 4 hours. So now you're at 35% build speed. You would grab these before you start a high level or a long duration building upgrade. And the same thing for research, right? You would grab these things before you start a research, so it reduces the overall amount of time. Now, when it comes to title giving, this is a thankless job. You are basically having people, and this is how I've seen kingdoms do it, is they'll do a spreadsheet or use some kind of application, and they'll do hour blocks per day, and they'll go out for, I would recommend like 2 to 4 weeks you go out for, and you ask anyone that's in management for these alliances, and obviously you have more flexibility if you do the King's Alliance route, and you ask people, can you fill in the time that you're willing to do title giving? So you can get an estimate on, or an overview on how much time availability do you have. You should do all of this before you tell people that you are going to start title giving. I honestly feel you need to try and figure this out before you get to home realm. But even if you are unable to do it before then, obviously start doing this as one of the most important things you should be doing after landing. And you figure out what your schedule is going to be. And then you have people take hour blocks, because basically what you need to do is you need to sit here for an hour, or like an hour at minimum. And you would click on this, click on someone's, you'd search someone's name, however the interface looks like, and then you'd find their name, you give them the title. you would tell everyone ahead of time you're going to do 5 or 10 minute increments or whatever number you want to come up with. And then after you've had the title for that long, the next person gets it. So you would remove the title, you'd search for the next person, you give them the title, you send them a DM in-game, and you say, hey, you have the title for 5 or 10 minutes. And then you move it to the next. And again, it's all depending on how long you want to do it. But these 3 titles are the ones that are most likely going to be given out the most, with emphasis more so on research and then building and then train speed, because you're just not always going to be training every day. You're probably going to wait for opportunities to do training. And so with all of this in mind, that's why you're basically doing an administrative job at this point. So you want to try to reduce burnout, and I recommend starting off with lower available times than higher, right? So even though, yeah, it'd be great for you to try to have 24/7 title giving coverage, that can also cause a lot of burnout depending on how much support staff you have with you. So again, get it organized, get it structured, figure out what the availability is for the amount of people that are willing to do it, and then at the same time, how much time they're willing to commit. And then once you have that locked in, you send a mail out with that schedule on when you're going to do it, and then who are the contact points, who are the points of contact. And then what you could also do as well is you could set up a private chat in-game, a private group chat. So what I've seen Kingdoms do is they'll set up a private group chat where you will tell people, if you want to get added to the title giving chat in-game in the Kingdom, message this person or this person and they'll add you. And then people can request the titles they want, and you can tell people, if I was going to do it, I would make a queue list. And I would, every time someone asked for it, I would add them to the queue list and I would tell them what number they are. And that way they can get a gauge on how far away they are. They can multiply that by 5 or 10 minutes or whatever, however long you're giving it for each person. And they can kind of figure out how long or when the title is going to be coming to them next. And also they can correspond that with how long is the current title giving session available for, right? If someone's put in the queue and their number, 20 or 30 or something like that, and you're only going to be title giving for an hour at 5-minute increments, you're not going to get to 20 to 30, right? So you have to think about that as well. Again, really is up to everyone on how you guys want to do it. I'm just giving you some ideas on things that I have seen that have worked out well in Kingdoms and just different approaches. So figure that out, because I'm going to tell you right now, the sooner you get that a handle on that, the more stress-free your life is going to be, without a doubt in my mind. Next one is going to be gifts. So with gifts, we will go here, and obviously you need to figure out, because remember, keep in mind, and I guess the last part I should mention as well, is that remember, High King and Ministers can give out positive and negative titles, or they can give out Counselor titles and Outlaw titles, right? So you can have up to 4 people that are able to help you with this, just to kind of state that as well, because we didn't mention that in the beginning. Now let's get to gifts. Gifts is pretty straightforward. You either give gifts out to, the most contributing people, even if sometimes those people might get multiple gifts, or you try to give out gifts to as many different people as you possibly can. However you figure that out, that is up to you in the Kingdom. I've even seen people give out gifts to those that are like getting close to T4, right, trying to kind of bolster up the bottom to kind of get them more ready, because obviously if you think about with free-to-play, the most important thing for them really is gems to try and build out their rally and their watchtower buildings. So again, it is really up to you on how you guys want to do it, but like with anything, have a conversation, talk amongst yourselves, and figure out how you want to go about it. Maybe you rotate. Maybe you do that one time. Next week's cycle, you do it a different time. Again, it's up to each Kingdom. But my recommendation is have a good game plan and be able to explain your reasoning on why you're going to be doing this, because you can give gifts out to anyone in the Kingdom, regardless of the alliance that has captured the dragon. Now let's get to skills. So this is number 8, I think, number 8 or 9, skills. So with skills, we know that exile is for internally within your Kingdom and banishment is for KVK. Really what we're talking about here is when you're going to pop skills. And for the most part, it's probably mainly going to be these ones, which is the gather speed, the build speed, healing, train speed, and research speed. And like I alluded to earlier, you would want to be popping these skills for the most part in 2 different ways. Either one, you have a set schedule that you're going to do skills at. And I think 333 actually has an example of this in one of their mails. They do. So T-Bag had sent this out where he said Monday through Thursday they're doing the gathering buff, Fridays research, Saturday build, and Sundays troop training. Now, this is okay. And he says I'm going to activate the weekend buffs at 15 UTC, right? I'm kind of telling you what time he's going to do those at. That's one way to do it. That's more of a proactive way to do it. And then there's the reactive way to do it, where you pop the skills based on the runes that drop. So an example, like we just talked about, if you see something like a max training speed or a max build speed or research speed, you would then pop a buff, right? And you would tell everyone ahead of time, right? And everyone should know, we will clear runes at 0 UTC and 12 UTC at the resets, and then a buff will, and then if a certain rune pops, we will pop a buff at this time, right, at a time, and then you try to rotate that, right? So an example would be, and you can do this actually kind of two different ways in the reactive form. You can react to when a rune drops, and then you activate the buff there. And if you have a situation, and then obviously you should always be aiming to do the next one, right? So for example, if a 15% and 15% building and research rune drop, maybe you start with building, and then the next time a research rune drops at 15%, you do that. And then maybe the next time you guys cycle and clear, it's going to be a train speed rune at 10%, and then you pop the train speed buff. So you need to figure out how you want to do that. Again, having a set schedule just means that you are going to have a little bit less likely of a chance of popping it when a max rune percentage drops, and then adding that with the title giving to where people can kind of max out on their speed time reduction for builds, for buildings and research. If you do it the reactionary way, you may have to wait a little bit longer, or excuse me, you may not be able to activate specific buffs in a more standard rotation because you are reacting. So you may go a couple cycles without popping a research or popping a building speed, right? Because you're waiting for runes to drop, but you're also giving people the max amount of return on investment that they can get when it does. So again, up to you. You guys have to talk about that. Next one is going to be a skill. Wait, what did we talk about? We did skills. So males. This is my favorite. So males for me, and I'll try and keep this one short, is males, I think, are really how you go about setting a good standard and a good expectation within your kingdom. So that way you can inform and educate people there and give them something to look forward to, something to really gravitate towards. And it's a way that can increase engagement, it can increase motivation, it can increase participation, and reduce player drop-off if it is done well. So if I was going to be sending males after I just got king, I would start off with an introduction. So I would do an introduction, a summary, and then I would talk about points of contact and kind of give people an overview of the kingdom. Like, what are the goals? What's the long-term vision? What do we want the kingdom to be? And I would also sign every single male in my signature at the very bottom with the Kingdom Discord link, and that they can find points of contact and important information on the Kingdom Declaration page once they click on privileges, right? Which is the one we're looking at right now. So I would like sign every mail I sent with that at the very bottom, because I think that's really important. But in the beginning, it's really about introducing yourself, introducing the kingdom to everyone, what the hope is for the vision. And then in the second mail, I would probably send out the Kingdom Discord. So I would do something where I would just write in the subject line, and I'll give you an example of this. So I would write in the subject line, Kingdom Discord link, in parentheses, copy paste message. That's it. And then I would just put the Discord link here, and that's it. Because remember, you want to be able to click and press and hold and copy. And you don't want to copy everything. You just want to copy that, right? In order to kind of min-max your way to joining. So you don't have to copy something longer and then remove all the text. You want to make the least amount of steps that people have to take. And then a third mail would probably be something such as, what are the goals, right? So like, what are the specific goals and breakdowns of the kingdom? How are we managing Strongest Lord event? How are we handling PvP in the kingdom? How are we going to do things like war games potentially, maybe talking about territory distribution, behemoth distribution, right? Giving people some more information on how that's going to play out. Number 4 may talk, or your next mail may talk about, like, if you're going to set up specific war games, how is that going to play out? Why are you doing that? Why is that important? You may do another mail that focuses on progression tips, how to level and progress your account as fast as possible. What are the most important events to take advantage of? You may talk about PvE hero pairings, PvP hero pairings, KvK prep. Just, again, think outside the box. I'm obviously not going to give you away all my little secrets, but these are important things that I believe every kingdom should be doing if you want to try and create the best possible environment for your player base. I think that is probably going to do it for me. And I'll give you a pro tip here at the end for those of you still here. When it comes to sending mails, my recommendation, keep in mind you can use HTML code in mails, right? Where you'll do like it's, what is it? Forward here, hang on, I'll write it out. So an example would be, you would do like this, bold, and then you would do hello. Oops, hang on. Did I do that right? What's going on here? Oh, maybe it just doesn't write that way with how I'm writing it. So you would do like hello, and then you would do dun-dun, close bracket like this, right? So this is HTML code. And what this would do is this would bold that word when you send the mail out. Now, there's a number of HTML code that you can use. My recommendation is send a mail out in an alt farm alliance as a test first to see how it would look, especially if you're doing formatting. Always send it out in an alt alliance first, proofread it, and then you can copy paste all of that text with the code in it to the King's Mail to send out. Trust me, I'm going to save you all probably a lot of headache. With that in mind, that is it. Lastly, I would love to hear from you as the players. If you're someone who's been a king or queen in a kingdom before, and you have other tips, other pieces of advice, keep in mind, I only talked about what I feel are just some highlighting points, not really doing a full deep dive kind of masterclass breakdown, but I would love to hear from you. What are some other things that you would suggest, you would advise, any kind of words of wisdom that you'd like to provide for other people, right? It's always interesting to read those in the comments, but let us know down below. All right, I'm out of here. You guys skedaddle. As always, until next time, I'll catch y'all later.